Welcome back in. Hello, sister.
Well, hello, hello, hello.
We are so thrilled to have you all back with us. Maybe you're just catching this as your first entry point into this series we're doing that is all things sister wounds. Maybe you caught us last week with our beautiful panel that we're so thrilled to welcome back in. Hello, Melissa. Hello, Kendra. If you caught us last week, you know about these women. But if you are just tuning in, let me give you a little intro. Kendra Woods is with us today. She is the founder of Soulful Success by Design. She's, all things human design. I can't wait to probably pick her brain later. And her philosophy is one that really focuses on transcending conditioned consciousness, which enables women to achieve business and life that they genuinely desire and deserve. I love that. I think we all get to have that. Welcome in, Kendra.
Well, thank you. Happy to be here.
Excited to have you back in. And we have Melissa Brough back with us today. She is the founder of the Energetic Literacy Project, also a licensed Ishtara teacher and sister. We're so grateful to have her in. She's a certified Reiki master and teacher. She really is a woman that cares deeply about self-healing, nervous system care, energetic intelligence. And by the way, she also is the steward of an off-the-radar retreat and residency space in Vermont. Welcome in, sister.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here.
Jill,
I should say my name is actually pronounced Brough, which I should have.
That was my intuition was hitting me so hard because I missed that in our intros. And now I feel very sad because I care so much about how to pronounce people's names. So we're gonna do a do-over on that one. Thank you for calling me forward on that one.
Right.
And you all get to have real-time life of how a wound could happen, right? This is absolutely how a wound, we can laugh about it, but for real, I think I've seen it. Like, she pronounced my name wrong. She didn't even care enough to ask me and I'm not saying this is what Melissa would do, but I think this is fascinating now that this is coming up because the things we hold on to and don't say,
yeah,
I'll just leave it at that. Anything coming up?
That's big. Like what doesn't get said. Like we're very clear about how we judge or lash out at other women or ourselves. But the things that don't get said and spoken, like that's a lot of wounding that we are carrying. And in that situation that just happened, if things were left unspoken, and you were two completely different people, of course, left unspoken, imagine what could have been festering through this whole time we're recording. That could be bad. And it doesn't sound like a big deal, maybe to a whole lot of people. It's that undercurrent of resentment, of judgment, of who does she think she is? And, it's just that undercurrent that is there. It's just that you can feel it. You can absolutely feel it. I am so curious about the unspoken. Like, how do we get the courage and the bravery to speak the wound and being able to say, in any situation, I'm guessing, but like what just happened, whatever, but like, hey, that hurt me, without jumping forward, excuse me, to the defense mechanisms of hurt and of anger, but peeling all that back and going, hey, that hurt me. Or, hey, I didn't feel seen. I shared something super, super vulnerable and I feel like everybody just glossed over it. And I really didn't feel seen or held in that moment when I needed to be held.
And I think
I can't make a mistake.
Yeah. And like, just to deepen on this, to use this as an example, it is actually one of my biggest fears in doing interviews, because I've been interviewing for quite a long time now at this juncture in my career, to pronounce somebody's name wrong. So it is actually, I'm laughing at a part of myself that didn't cover that, because I normally always ask before a show, because I'm the one that gets to do our introductions. And I normally always ask, it is a big fear of mine. So the fact that now, and with a sister whom I know and love, right? I pronounce the name wrong. I am like, oh my gosh, embarrassment, shame, these things are coming forward. And so then to have someone say, actually, my name is pronounced this way. So I'm sharing this because it's like all of our projections, our fears are going to come out and true. And so I just think this is a really beautiful example to get a play on for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think this is an amazing chance to talk about the opportunity that sister wounds present, because what I'm hearing is the invitation to, number one, speak up when you are wounded, but to number two, circle back. If there's something that has been alive for me that I've been thinking about this week, leading up to this podcast, was what are the sister wounds that I may have inflicted in my life, and how can I circle back to those women? And, to Kendra and Stacey's earlier points, will help heal that wound, but help them feel safer with me. Knowing what I know now, having lived a little bit longer than whenever those wounds occurred, right? And there's such a beautiful opportunity there. We don't necessarily have to think on such a huge level, like, how do we resolve sister wounds forever? Although I do have some thoughts about that. But, it can start, to Stacey and Kendra's points earlier, and Jill's as well. Like, it can start with just owning the impact that we've had so far and the healing opportunity that presents.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Excuse me. Got a little going, which means something is stirring, probably. Kendra, did you want to say something? I see wheels turning.
She
Yeah,
is. We're
I
waiting.
know. I cannot. My face speaks before I even open my mouth,
I get it.
Same.
and I can't help it.
Same.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here processing what we were talking about here, and just thinking about what came up for me when I was listening to you all speak. Is that at the end of the day, we all want to be or feel understood, right? We all want to just feel understood. And when there's something within us that needs to be spoken, that wants to be spoken, it can feel a little scary, depending upon like what we've been through in our lives. But I think what's important is how we approach the situation, right? How do we approach the situation? If we need to speak something to a sister and we know that, okay, this might rub her the wrong way, or she might feel that I'm this, or whatever, it's how we approach it. It's not about going, and I think this is where emotional intelligence kind of comes in a little bit too, because we, again, are kind of fed these stories that when women are in conflict, oh, it's a cat fight, or oh, it's this, or oh, it's that. It doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be that. What if it, like I was saying earlier, like in the last episode, what if it just gets to be a conversation where we are looking to both be understood? And something that has supported me in my life is really letting go of the need to be right. Like letting go, I don't have to be right. And also understanding that I'm responsible for regulating myself, right? And bringing myself back to a neutral place. And also that other woman is responsible for that as well. And I think a lot of the times, I know for me in the past, I wouldn't approach something because I'm like, okay, well, this is going to upset her and it's going to mess up her day and blah, 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 blah. Like all these things, because I'm worried about the other person instead of having an open and authentic conversation that could actually deepen the relationship. Right. So I'm always asking myself and choosing my words wisely about how do I want to approach this? This is bothering me. How can I let her know it's bothering me without it coming off as, what's the word? Like as a confrontation, right? And if that person takes it that way, because I've had that happen as well, where like the woman did take it as, oh, you're coming for me? No. I am not coming for you. I am simply wanting to open up a conversation about how I feel and get an understanding of how you're feeling, because we don't know what the other person's going through. We have no idea what she is holding on to, what's happening in her life. Maybe there's things going on with her kids, and we make up a story about what it means. So I'm going to say, let's stop making up stories about what the woman in front of us is bringing to us, and instead just say, you know what, this is a story that I made up in my head just now. Is that true? Right? Do you not like me? Is it this? Is it that? Is that true? And I think we'd be surprised what comes up.
That's such a good reminder, Kendra. And I had this reminder recently, and I'm a little bit embarrassed to share it. But, you know, I realized recently that I had a lot of judgment about a woman who married a relative of mine. And, you know, on the surface, she looks like she's got it all together. She's gorgeous. She was a model. She's, you know, had various successes, all of those things. And I had some really difficult experiences with her when we were all together as like our big extended family. And there was just some, you know, there are ways in which I felt she was not showing up and I needed her to show up. And that impacted me in ways that I was really upset about for a while. And, you know, come to realize / sort of find out through a conversation with another relative, you know, that she's really been struggling with depression. And I didn't know because we're not interfacing that often. And I knew that she'd been through some really difficult things and was trying to constantly like qualify my judgment of her by being like, well, this happened and maybe it's about that. You know, I think your point is so important that it's like we have no idea what's going on inside of each other's worlds, you know, and so then to approach it and your point about emotional intelligence, I think, is so critical. For me, the whole point of the energetic literacy project is like actually pushing that conversation even further. So one of the things I've heard many of us mention in this podcast and in the previous one is this need for a felt sense of safety, right? And the need to learn how to regulate our own systems. And for each of us to be able to take responsibility for regulating our own systems. We're not teaching our kids how to do that very well yet. We're teaching emotional intelligence, like how do you know, what is anger? How do you recognize when you're angry? Great. But how do you actually work with the energy of anger? How do you do that? These are things that my sisters here who are Ishtara teachers know. We have a lot of tools for doing that in that practice, but I do not see my kids being taught it in school yet. And so we need to expand this understanding of emotional intelligence into energetic intelligence. And I do think that is a part of challenging sister wound issues on a systemic level.
Yes, Melissa.
Boom.
Yes.
Boom. And there it is. Yeah. So true. How many of us
let's not actually drop our mics because
let's not drop it. Just that kind. But it's a boom. It's a big boom. Like, and I'm curious. I'm thinking about like how many times I got the story, whether somebody directly said it to me or I just observed that that's how life goes, that anger has to be destructive. And so you either lean fully into it, like, I'm going to be combative and I'm coming for you. And, you know, defenses are up and let's go. And then you can also be the kind and it's like, well, I saw what that caused, the destruction that caused. So I don't want to be angry. So I won't say something to that person. I won't say to that sister, like, you hurt me. Aside from which, I don't want you to know that you had the ability to hurt me. Because then you see my weakness or my flaws or like whatever the stuff is. And this messaging around these emotions that we call negative, teaching ourselves, teaching our children, teaching all the generations, like person by person, every interaction, how to hold those energies in very constructive ways. That to me is key in not only healing sister wounds, but preventing a whole lot of them from happening. Jill can be angry with me. She can be enraged with me. And we have built trust with each other to know that that anger is going to produce something that is going to be good for both of us. It is going to deepen our connection, not because, anger deepens connection and just take that out of context, but because of how we get to have the conversations, how we get to step into the sadness. Like, man, I'm feeling some sadness come up as I'm hearing you talk about this. And I don't know where that's coming from, but it's here. Like, can we talk about it? Can we deal with it? We don't know how to deal with emotions on the emotional wheel that are not happy unicorn rainbows. Like, we don't know what to do with them. And I know I grew up in a Black community that taught me you don't have time for that. Like, you're going to carry that rage, you're going to carry that anger. It's just going to be there, but you don't have time to, like, we don't have time to figure out anger. Like, you have to keep going. You have to keep going. And there is a sense of resilience that comes with that for sure. And there is a sense of strength and groundedness for sure. And there is a lot of unhealthy stuff that comes with that too. Bypassing the emotion, not even addressing the emotion, avoiding the emotion. And that's a wound in and of itself. And so if I'm carrying that unmet need of rage from systemic things, oppression, patriarchy, slavery, racism, all the things, feminism, like just all the things. That's how I'm showing up in these interactions. I'm carrying it with me. Consciously or unconsciously, it's coming out. Like, I'm speaking the language of the stories everywhere I go. But ooh, what if we could, as Kendra stated, like, get rid of those stories. Like, just stop that narrative. Acknowledge that it's a story and it's not happening right now. Like, this isn't really happening right now. Yes, a sister friend I had hurt me and it was awful and traumatic and bad. And I see red flags of this woman showing the same behaviors. I'm in my discernment. Wow, the default that I see us do a lot of times is to revert back to what we think we should have done back then. Well, I should have cursed her out. So I see these red flags. Oh, girl, you about to get it. Or I should have just left her alone and walked away. So you know what? I see the red flags. I'm out of here. I don't have time for this. I'm done. Like, all these things come up. This emotional intelligence piece, and Melissa, with the work you're doing, it's going to be huge. This is the game changer. This is a big part of the game changer in healing these sister wounds. Like, I don't want it anymore. I don't want it. I don't have biological daughters. I don't want it for all of the women I call my daughters. I don't want it for all of the women I call my sisters. I don't want it for my mother and her generation. Like, I'm so done with it. Like, let's be about the business of being safe.
Yeah.
Let's be safe for ourselves and for each other.
Yeah.
I mean, to that point, Stacey, it's also bringing in what we chatted about our last episode of, like, well, that was survival. And
Yeah.
then we get into the modern age of corporate America. For any of you out there listening, which a lot of our audience has spent time in corporate, and then it's an amped up level of survival depending on the skin color you have. And then you add being a woman. It is like survival to possibly like be putting food in your belly, to getting that paycheck, to ensuring that, you know, maybe you are the breadwinner and that your family can eat. And so you better not show that this, you know, whatever decision or this project you're taking on, or there's something, a meeting, and you were angry, better not show it. And please do not cry. Please do
Oh my
not
God.
cry inside of these corporate spaces
Mhm.
and show that emotion, because that's weak. And so just like, I don't know, acknowledging that piece of, yeah, this is so deep of how do we then begin to find the safety inside of ourself when it is such a deep wound of survival.
Yeah. Well, I think that that's the thing though, right? It is when I can feel safe in my body with my anger, with my sadness, with my grief, um, with my excitement, with my pleasure. Like when I can know how to feel safe in my own body, again, I think it like it comes back to us, right? Then there's a difference, because I found that, to your point, Stacey, where you were talking about, you know, anger and rage, or even Jill, right? Like, you don't cry at work. Like, that was something, I remember my dad saying that to me on the phone, because I called him, I was bawling my eyes out because I didn't get this promotion that I felt like I deserved. And, you know, he was like, you know, you cannot keep wearing your heart on your sleeve. And it would irritate me because that is who I am. Like, this face that speaks for me, I cannot change it. Like y'all, it is what it is. How do we learn how to use it as a gift instead of seeing it as a weakness? There's just so many things that I feel like that get to be changed. And I know for sure, because I found this in my own experience, when I would ask questions, or I would ask questions, or I would say, maybe we should do it this way, right? Or let's not fire this person just yet. Let's kind of understand where they are, where they're coming from, what is going on. Let's not make these rash decisions. And I worked with a bunch of women, right? There were women that I worked with, mostly that were all in these positions. And that was looked down upon. We don't do that. No, they're out, they're gone, let's go. And so it can feel like, oh, I don't know if I can make this change, but we have to keep showing up and being the kind of women that show other women that there's a different way, right? There is a different way. And some folks are going to be open armed about it. Yes, it's amazing. And others, they're not going to be ready for it yet. And that's okay too, if you're not ready for it yet. But I feel like that there's going to be more women who are like, you know what, gosh, yes, this is refreshing. This feels good.
Yeah, it's more real, and it allows safety, because the thing is that I'm hearing, like, Jill, your comment about, and both you and Kendra, the requirements of corporate culture to bottle up a very natural body response to an experience is just another example of the way that women are, well, all bodies in corporate culture, but women in particular are trained to disembody, to be disconnected from the body, to not trust the body. And when we don't trust the body, I mean, that's a huge part of not having a sense of safety, right? Because if we're not listening to the way the body is able to process these emotions, like cry, because that is how the body moves sadness, right? Then it gets stuck, and then we've got wounds, and then it spirals into sister wounds because of the competition. And I just think too that, like, we have to remember that, yes, there's the, like, origin of the sort of evolutionary reason for competition, but that I really believe, and I think the science and the history that is being produced now plays this out, that has been grossly overstated in Western culture in the interest of capitalism. This whole idea of survival of the fittest, the way that humans survived was in community. That is how they survived. We have to find safety in community again. And part of that means we have to find safety in our bodies so that we can be in honest, open community supporting each other, right? So I think it's brilliant to think about ways that we as women can show up in corporate spaces, can show up in educational spaces, and show ourselves listening and being in our body in a safe way, modeling that for other women, and really kind of nurturing this sense of, like, I am safe. You can be safe with me. We can be in community. And that is how we survive.
It's a big message. Wow.
I mean,
I keep thinking about communities of women, and I keep thinking about just even putting together this series, just how, like, completely lit up we were as we talked about it, and like, we just want to reach into all of our different communities and circles and bring women in, like, to heal this in community, like, to talk about it, shine a light on it in community. Could Jill and I have just had these conversations on our own? Sure. And we do all the time. This gets amplified. It really gets amplified when we bring ourselves together in community as a collective with this intention. Like, hey, let's talk about this. Let's bring some light to the need for safety. So I'm just very grateful for the sense of community that each woman here has just automatically stepped into. Like, from a sense of community and sisterhood, I'm here and I'm willing to share stories, share my background, to share my thoughts, trusting, because we've never done this together, all four of us, trusting that the other women in the room will show up the same way. Like, that's, like, we're doing it. We're doing that very thing. I love that. I just want to say I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's our birthright. I think being in strong sisterhood is our birthright as humans, and we have forgotten that, and it's been stamped out for all the reasons we've already mentioned. But to me, it is such a gift to be in community with you all and to be able to model that for my kids, and create the world that we want to live in.
Amen. I think you
Kendra, did
were
you have-
stepping in to say something, and I was
I felt
saying
like
something.
Kendra was steaming on something, like a little simmer. All I was going to say that was just really true is around, y'all, we just don't have to do it alone. And if there's one thing that I've discovered inside of still this podcast, it's just the truest means to that. And because I had written down on my dream board, y'all know this is what I do, sacred activator of dreams. And I had in my dream space and my desire space to have a podcast. I have names of so many podcasts. And I even tried relaunching a thing that I did like years ago. And I'm sharing all this because it wasn't until Stacè and I came together and then thought we were birthing a retreat to then find out, oh no, instead we're birthing a podcast of like, it's just been such a delicious, and if I really tune in, I can get emotional about it of like, God, it's so much easier. It's so much easier to not have the whole weight of launching something that is so exciting to me, that has been a dream for so long, brings so much joy. But like, damn, doing this by myself would not give me the same spark that I feel that like literally lights me up every time I know that we have a recording session. And so it's like leaning into these areas of like, you think you need to do this project all by yourself, or this is my body of work and it's mine. And I think it also rolls to Kendra saying like, can we just not always be right? So it's like, what if you're standing in the forest and you literally have 5 paths in front of you, and one could be going alone, but the other 4 can open up. And this woman, this tree, right, is going to greet you. This woman's going to give you the nuggets you need, or this one's going to be the exact partner you need to create what it is that you're creating. Is really on my heart to share this, I think within this as we talk about community.
Yeah, we're not taking nothing away from each other. We are adding. We are adding to one another. And I think that is, again, one of those narratives we got to flip on its head, where it's like, if I help her. When I was in real estate, when I was younger, in my early 20s, I had a woman that I was working with in a neighborhood, and she was older than me, and she refused to help me. She refused to help me. And I remember at that time, I made a promise to myself. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be that woman. If someone's coming new into any industry I work in and they need some information, I'm going to give it to them. Because we've got to stop that pattern of like, oh, if I tell her all the things, then she's going to succeed faster than me. No, that is a seed that's been planted in your mind, in your consciousness, and it's not true. It's not true.
Yeah. It's that idea of scarcity. There's only so much, and I got to get mine. You be about the business of getting yours. Competition, all the things. What if we decided we will not live in scarcity energy? There is enough for everyone, and I am enough. I am enough. And so I don't need to take from you and take. I don't need to hold all the things and become a hoarder of information or whatever the case is. I can share it. I can be in abundance energy, knowing this is going to bless this sister. This is going to bless me. It's going to bless us collectively. It's just going to be a blessing. We're going to get so much more from that. So much more.
And guess what? The healing path is quicker. If there is one thing that I'm sure all of us can absolutely put a stake in the ground, is like healing in community is going to amplify and quicken all of your patterns, all of the shit that has been your story, because you can't ever get that kind of witnessing and self-reflection and mirroring ever. I mean, there's so much you can do on your own, but I think that's also the power of community and sisterhood.
Amen. So true. We're better together, stronger together.
Better together. Yeah, and if you all want to dive deeper into the work that both of these gorgeous souls are up to, you can catch it all in the show notes down below. We are so grateful that you tuned in, and thank you so much to Kendra and Melissa. Thank you, sisters, for being here.
Thank you.
We will all see you next week. as Stacey and I wrap up this series that is
Mm.
Sister Wounds. Until next, bye.
Love you. Bye.